Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, you can see. Can you start now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, it's very clear, right? It's very big.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the recording is on, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I was saying about research proposal writing. The key questions are: what do you know about the topic? That means for you to answer this question, you need to read around the topic, do some search to see what articles have been published around the topic, then find out what you don't know about the topic. What you don't know about this topic is called the knowledge gap. So, the purpose of every research is to cover a knowledge gap. So that knowledge gap could be that maybe the articles that exist on the old, that means they are more than 10 years old, or maybe a particular angle of that topic was not. For example, maybe you saw articles that dealt um, uh, with single mothers. You saw article that dealt with with fathers, but you didn't see an article that dealt with both parents. So that becomes your knowledge gap. Then you need to know why should you cover this knowledge gap. Maybe you want to cover it in order to contribute knowledge, or in order to stimulate, provide more guidance for further research. Then the last point is, how does your study intend to cover the gap? Do you want to do a primary study, or do you want to do a secondary? How do you want to cover this gap in knowledge? So these are the things to bear in mind. So writing your background, you use a funnel approach. So this funnel approach means you start wide, okay, then you narrow down. So you start from something like, if you're talking about, if you want to talk about um, maybe HIV in Imo State, you start with maybe worldwide. This is what WHO said: the number of people affected by HIV in the worldwide is growing, maybe over the past 10 years. Then in Africa, this is the situation in Africa. Okay, then maybe in West Africa, then in Nigeria, what happened? Then in Imo State, what happened? That's background, statistics. Then what are the policies that have been done so far by the Imo State government to address HIV? Purpose of the study. The purpose of the study is to address your research question. So that's the aim of the research. So, for example, you want to say you want to look at um, smoking behavior among the experiences of experiences of type 2 diabetes among adult smokers. So the purpose of your study is also to the purpose of your study will now be that you want to explore the experiences of adult smokers. So you can see that the purpose is directly equal to the topic most times. The purpose of the study is equal to the topic. So if your topic is uh, experiences of refugees, or let's say refugees, so the purpose or the aim of the study was to explore the experiences of refugees as regards interpretation. Now, rationale. Why do you want to do this? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So rationale. Why do you want? Why the why is because you want to cover a gap in knowledge, and that gap in knowledge is that you have looked at different literature in research. Some of them have looked at maybe experiences of adult refugees in the UK as regards immigration. Maybe like 5 articles looked at this from that angle. Then, and they are all primary articles. Then, some systematic reviews looked at the same topic, but it has been more than 10 years old. So you can see that it's too old. So now the reason for your own research now is that because that's the articles, the primary research and articles that address your topic in the form of a systematic review, that they are older than 10 years. That means they are outdated. So that can be a rationale or your gap in the gap you are covering here. Because as you have looked at the various systematic reviews that have been done in the past, and none of them addressed your topic per se. But you were able to find some primary articles that address your topic. So your rationale is now, because of this gap in knowledge, you want to fill the gap, you want to contribute to knowledge. You want to, so your research must have a gap that it's covering. If it's not covering a gap, it's not a good research. So your purpose, like I told you, is equal to the topic, right? And now under your purpose or the aim of the study, you now have your specific objectives. Most times, maybe you can just take maybe 2 or maximum 3 particular objectives that you want to address. Now, your objectives is also equal to your research questions. Just as your objectives are sentences, plain sentences, while your research questions, you turn your objectives into research questions. So this is a sample. Remember that this presentation is based on what? For qualitative research. So now, this is just an idea. Now I said using a subset of information based on social demographic variables such as ethnicity, religion, etc., etc. Remember, what I say about social demographic variables can be what? Age, right?
Yes.
Can be gender, okay?
Location.
Can be religion,
Religion.
educational level. Now, this is the formula that I just developed. So look at this phenomenon or behavior in practice among a study population living in a specific what? Location. So what are the phenomena that you want to study? An example of a phenomenon can be maybe language brokering. Maybe you want to study smoking behavior. You want to study a particular practice. So from your experience, maybe you notice that a lot of people that's the code. That's the example. So among now study population. If you look at this here, can you see this? The main population here is what? Mothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I said social demographic variables that you can vary. Can you see that now? What type of mothers are we talking about? Based on the social demographic variable, we are varying the ethnicity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we are varying the immigrant status, the immigration status. So these mothers, that's the human being that we are talking about. You're only looking at it, you're looking at it from various angles. You're looking at it from an angle of ethnicity and angle of immigration status. These are 2 social demographic variables concerning this mother. I hope you're getting the code. So this is the code. This is just to make it easy. So for qualitative research, something like this. Phenomenal behavior among a study population. So now that's a study population.
So
If I remove,
I have a question.
okay, well, let me finish. So if I remove if I just say among mothers living in West Yorkshire, that will make the research be too broad. The scope will be too wide, and it will not be researchable, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So now, if I say, for me to narrow the mothers, I have to now select based on what I want to vary it on ethnicity. So I can say Pakistan, right?
Mm.
Now, if so many studies have been done in Pakistan, I want to narrow it more. I will now select immigrants. All right. So you can narrow your research topic once you have gotten the population. I mean, like the subject, which is mother or elderly. Okay, elderly, children. Okay, youth. Now, look at the social demographic variable that you want to vary. Which one is it that people, that's articles that there have been little studies that have been done around that area? Or like now, since you are writing a conceptual research, that means like that's what you are looking at. Maybe so many primary studies have been done among Pakistani immigrant mothers, okay? But there have not been any systematic review. Or, or maybe even if there is a systematic review, maybe it was more than 10 years old. So, these are the ways to get a research gap. But you will not know it unless you have read around the topic, infant breastfeeding practices among mothers generally in West Yorkshire. Do you understand what I'm saying? Also, the variable can vary based on what location. So now you can say, even though there have been articles in China, in Australia, even in UK, but in West Yorkshire, there has not been anything done like that. And then that will now do what? That is it. So the conceptual research simply means that you are using a secondary data. That means you are combining both primary articles and systematic review. You are looking at all the primary articles that have been done in a particular topic, and all the systematic reviews or scoping review or literature review that have been done in a particular topic. So by the time you look at all of them, then you will now try to identify which variables, or which of these social demographic variables are lacking. Are they lacking based on any ethnicity? Maybe this sector, nobody have talked about this particular area, or very few persons have talked about this, or maybe in location, maybe in UK, maybe studies have been done in China, in Australia, in other places, but in UK there has not been any systematic review, or there's not been any review concerning that location. So these are the various ways of identifying a research gap, so that you can say, okay, now I see that there's a gap here because there are not many people that have done this. What you want to do? All right. So ask a question.
Okay, so my question is, before this introduction, I went online to just look at a topic, just to develop a topic, which I found. So, but I haven't seen this now. I'm trying to like kind of figure out how to screw my, I mean, skill my topic.
Yeah. So that is the purpose of this tutorial.
Yeah, because what I got was the impact of smoking and its effects on the
Yeah.
mortality
So so basically,
rate.
you want to write about smoking. So now you need to read around smoking based on these ideas are now to find out where the gap is. What gap does your mini systematic review want to cover? Because you are not doing a full systematic review. You're doing a mini one. So what gap? Where is the gap? What's the gap? Let me finish the presentation so you understand what I mean. Now, identifying the variables in your study. So when you talk about the variables in your study, there are independent variables and there are dependent variables. So dependent variables are the ones that are based on outcome. They are also called outcome variables, while the independent variables are the ones that influence the outcome. So for example, now, when you talk about smoking, maybe let's say a topic about smoking and breast cancer. You have a topic now, okay? The impact of smoking on breast cancer patients. What do you think? Which one is the dependent variable and which one is the independent variables for this study?
So smoking on breast cancer, right?
Yeah. Which one is the outcome or the dependent variable, and which one is the independent variable?
The outcome will be breast cancer.
Good. Why the dependent variable, which is what? The independent variable is what? Smoking.
It's smoking, because you have to have smoking. You have to smoke first before you can link
All
it
right.
to breast cancer.
All right. So now let me give another topic again. Let me see what I get. Okay. So let me okay. Let's say if I give you a topic around effect of uh, long reading times on academic performance. Which one is the dependent variable and which one is the independent variable?
Long reading time is the independent variable. Academic
Okay,
performance is the dependent variable.
good. So that's the outcome, right? So
Mm.
now, when you're writing your topic, it may not be simple like that. So now, if I tell you to measure academic performance, a variable should be measurable, right?
Mm.
So now, how will you measure academic performance? You see that there are many ways you can measure academic performance, right?
Mm.
So your research should be able to define what do you mean by academic performance? Do you mean low low CGPA? Do you mean low exam score? Or do you mean low IQ test? What exactly do you mean? So there's a difference between phenomenon and what? Variable. So climate change is a phenomenon. It can be an outcome variable, which is called climate change. When you say climate change, but if in your own research, in the research you are doing, what exactly do you mean by climate change? Do you mean sea level, or do you mean temperature, or do you mean amount of carbon emission, or the amount of rainfall? What exactly do you mean? So 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 your ability to be able to pinpoint the variables in your research is very, very important. So a research topic can be impact of poor academic performance on the health of the subjects, right?
Yeah.
Now, what are the variables? Remember, impact of poor academic performance. I did not define the variables in poor academic. Remember, so you will not know what do I mean by poor academic performance. So it means that poor academic performance is a variable. So sorry, is a phenomenon. Okay, but then under it now, in my introduction, I will now define exactly what do I mean by what poor academic what performance. Do you understand me? So I will now say in my thesis, poor academic performance means exam score below 50%, or I can say poor academic performance means low IQ test score below 50%. So that means that my variable now in that study is now what? Low IQ score. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm.
So there's a link. I think I dropped this link on the chat for you. So when you click on it, you read more, so you'll be able to understand what I mean. So variables means the I would say phenomenon. That phenomenon means like the mother and father of variables. So when you say a thing, you have to define, you have to narrow it down so that we know exactly which part, because you cannot research in everything. So when you're saying climate change, maybe what you're defining in your research now, what you mean by climate change is sea level, right? Or temperature. So we now know, okay, the variable that you are using in terms of climate change is what? Temperature. Okay. So and being able to identify the variables in your research is also very, very important. So let's look at some okay, like this one now. When I say infant breastfeeding practices, remember this, okay, before I'll go back, this one now, there is no outcome variable. So what I have here is infant breastfeeding what practices, right? So now this is a phenomenon. What are the variables? How do I know?
But the question is, what do we want to do about infant breastfeeding?
Good, Good. So that's so exactly. So what exactly is the behavior? What behavior are you talking about? Are you talking about breast milk, breastfeeding? Are you talking about use of milk? What exactly are the variables under it that you want to measure, you want to look at? So that is just a way of you understanding it. Okay. All right. So let's go. So I said how to write background. Let me go to the next. Wow. Writing the background of a study. Let's give example. Wow. Coincidentally, this is now from your own. So now I said, who are the study? For example, now mothers. I know it's mother, but which type of mothers? I said was diabetic mothers, right?
Mm.
Which type of diabetic mothers? Maybe Muslim diabetic. I'm trying to qualify these mothers. So who are they? You must discuss how many are they? How many persons have the disease or are engaging in that behavior? Maybe in the world, as I said, global, and then country specific or local statistics. What is the trend? Okay, right? Is there any classification or subset of a population? So diabetic mothers, maybe is it common among those in under 40 years? So if there are any, if there are, let's say Mexican, maybe they have different tribes, or maybe you notice that some tribes, some part of some Pakistan community, maybe they said they are these people normally have diabetes. So you need to highlight those things. Okay. Then define your terms. So this definition of terms is actually those variables we are talking about. So what exactly do you want to measure? Do you understand? So then you can just read around the variables in your topic. So I've given you this one, infant persistent practices. Among this one is what? Families. What type of families? Muslim families. What type of Muslim families? Mexican Muslim families. So why do you want to study Mexican? Why is it Mexican people that you want to study? It should be in your background. Why Muslim families for that diabetes that you want to do? What is unique? Did they say that they have more diabetes? Do you understand? Okay. So why is it infant breastfeeding practices? You read around infant breastfeeding practices. What has been done as part of your background? So, like I said, so why they what study? So if you're saying in the UK, why UK? Or if you're saying is Mexican Muslim, why? So why the study location? Okay, sorry. Why the study participant? Is there any heterogeneity in the study population? So, like I told you, this heterogeneity simply means is there any subset of the population that might be of interest for us to know? Maybe why that this particular group or tribe have higher diabetes. What are the peculiar characteristics, inequalities, experience, risk, problems that study population face? Why do your study population engage in that behavior? What are the reasons that they engage in that activity? Okay, so what are the causes of brackets? So based on your topic. Now, what are the costs or national or health expenditure result of the phenomenon? What are the costs? What does it cost the government? Are there any policies, national and local policies that have been already before now by the country? Were the targets met? Can you criticize the policy? What are the current statistics so far? I hope you're getting this. So that's your background of study. That's the background of study. All right. Hello.
Yes, I'm with you.
Then, so by the time you have done all those things, you then writing your qualitative research question. Remember, we are talking about qualitative study. We are not talking about quantitative study. Qualitative means something that is not a number. Okay. So in qualitative, you ask how questions and you ask what questions. So these are just common examples of how to frame your question. How do how do um, how do how do Pakistani mothers view infant breastfeeding? What are the qualities of so a qualitative question normally asks how and what. What is the role of language brokering in mothers of Black and ethnic minority groups living in the UK? Okay, what are the um, refugee experiences of interpreting services in the UK? So these are examples of the ways to frame your research
So
question.
qualitative research questions,
Yeah,
qualitative
see,
research are
so you
only
can
for
see.
secondary
Yeah,
research.
so what reasons contribute to the rising rate of this? Okay, so you normally use the word to describe, to explore, to understand. So that means in your objectives, these are the kind of words that you can use to describe, to explore, to understand the experience of something. Okay, how does this affect this? How would this group of people describe something? What are the experiences of this? So when you talk about impact studies are normally quantitative in nature. So you can see maybe when you start saying influence, effect, why, relate, cause. These ones are words that show that you are moving into quantitative research instead of qualitative. Okay, so these are words that
So
show
which
that
one
you are.
is better and which one is better for secondary research, and can it be?
I'm telling you that you are doing a qualitative secondary research. You avoid these words here. This words I'm showing you here now. It means you have changed your study methodology. You can use any of the words. You can use what, how, describe, explore, understand. Do you understand me? You can use
Mm.
any of these words here. But you see, when you start using influence, effect, why, relate, and cause, these are words that are majorly for quantitative research. So if you use them in your qualitative study, you are not getting it right. So that is the truth. So when you're writing your objectives or when you're writing your research questions, use any of the models I've shown you here. You can use how, you can use what, you can use describe, explore, understand. For secondary research or for primary research, anyone. So far is this qualitative methodology. So if you talk about causation, you are talking about randomized control trial. If you're talking about relation, how does increase in blood pressure relate to increase in hypertension? That means you are doing a correlation study. The method of analysis will be correlation. That's numbers. If you are saying why, reason, under epidemiology, the why and the reason question is also under causation. That's the Braford criteria. So these are all quantitative methodology. See, that's why I said you should avoid these words. This one here in red, avoid them. Use any of the ones above. All right. Then the last part, there I'll stop, is framing your research gap. I'm giving you an example. So, for example, now, if you want to write on infant breastfeeding experiences for Asian Muslim mothers in the UK, remember, the word is experiences. So that means it's a qualitative study, right? Now, this is an example of how to frame your research gap. Now, you can see here, I said, a review of literature have reviewed previous international studies on infant breastfeeding practices. However, Many studies concentrated on experiences of parents. I'll give my references. Okay. While a few studies focused on single parents. 1, 2. I'll give my references. In the UK, remember this one was international, right? In the UK, a few number of studies focused on Black and ethnic minority family experiences. I'll give my references. Okay. So far, there is no evidence of studies focusing on infant breastfeeding experiences of Asian Muslim mothers. So you can see that this shows your lecturer that you have read wide though. You have read so many journals and you have seen articles that treated that address your topic, but the one that concerns Asian Muslim mothers, nobody or either few people or nobody have addressed it. Okay. So now for your own, that is a secondary research. Remember, this one now is assuming that I'm doing a primary research, right?
Yeah.
Good. So now bringing it to secondary research. So you will say that you have seen a lot of primary studies that have been done on a particular topic, maybe that type 2 diabetes experiences of Asian Muslim mothers. Now, however, the systematic review that has been done was, that's like they are old. They are more than 10 years old. Okay, so there are no recent studies, no recent um, literature review or systematic review have been done on your own particular topic based on what you have seen so far. So, and that is what makes your research very, very interesting, and that is your research gap. So systematic review, maybe other studies have done the same systematic review that you're about to do. Other studies have done it in Asia, in China, okay, but very few have done it in UK, or there's nobody that have done it in UK. Or
Is there a way we can look at a gap practical?
looking at a gap practical, did you read this? Did you read this thing here? Can you see? Can you see this? Can you see how many references said? Many studies. So you have to read. See it here.
Okay.
Many studies concentrated on this. So you have to read the studies, right? To know. So getting a gap is not something you just wake up one day and that's it, you have a gap. So it involves you reading, doing some research, looking at your topic in various journals to see what have been done. Now, after you have read and you have seen this one, then you have gone through the literature. You have seen the various areas that they have addressed. Then you can now say, okay, from my own observation, I think a few number of studies have focused on Black and ethnic minority families. You can say either there are few studies or there is none. Most times when you say there is no evidence, it means I think majorly in primary studies when you have not even, as in like the study has not been done before. But if you look at, okay, let us look at some systematic reviews. I pray I will be able to see one systematic review that addresses this thing. I want to stop sharing. Okay, so let's say like let me use type 2 diabetes now as a case study. Sorry, let me see. Oh, this is up to 2 hours, man. I want to minimize this thing now. I don't know what's happening.
It's many, but it's being recorded. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. All right. So can you see the web page as in what I'm doing?
Yet to come up.
So let's see something like systematic review on type 2 diabetes. So you always your topic with a systematic review. You're asking me practical demonstration.
Your screen is not showing. No.
Okay, let me see. Stop sharing. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
What's happening?
I can hear you. I was saying that your screen is not showing,
I don't know what is going on.
and the recording is still going on too.
All right. So my screen is hanging. Eh? What's
It's not showing.
hello?